Welcome to the Ultimate Mixtape, an interactive podcast on a mission to create an epic playlist. With submissions from your host, creative guests, and superfans along the way. What songs will make the cut? This podcast is about music, friends, and memories. Share your favorite stories on www.theultimatemixtape.com to join in the podcast fun. Here's your host, Jess Manzilla.
What's up, everybody? I'm Jess Manzilla, and I have with me, as always, my partner in crime and life, Jimmy McFadden.
Hey, everybody.
Welcome to our music podcast, Ultimate Mixtape. We have been busy traveling, going to shows, talking to new bands, so definitely make sure you're checking out the website, theultimatemixtape.com. See what shows we're at, where we're headed to. Come out and say hi to us if you're at the same shows. We're still working on adding songs to this mixtape, so Jimmy, we need a couple more. What do you think this episode should be about?
We do. I think we're about halfway, so we need to add at least another 6 songs. I liked the idea of Keegan adding last week Mr. Wives, which is like a brand new song, but I think mixtapes also should be involved with a throwback. So I've been reading a lot online on Facebook articles and just other music articles about albums that are turning 20 and also 10 years old this year. And makes me feel old when I look at it. But it's amazing what albums are turning 20 and then also 10 this year. So I think we should pick a song from one of those 20-year-old albums, a 10-year-old album, and then just discuss it. Because like I said, the list is amazing.
Yeah, for sure. I love that idea. Aside from like the token bands that we both love, like, something corporate, things like that, I think we kind of grew up vastly different in our music taste.
Just a little
bit. And when I saw these lists circulating, there's so many different bands. And I even went on Spotify and saw that people were creating playlists for these. So I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I think I'm going to give you what my top 5 albums are for the 20 years that are turning 20. I'm going to guess that none of these would be in your top 5. But they're all amazing, and that's what you should know. So when I think of the albums that are turning 20, again, the list it's fucking epic how good they are. But when I think of a top 5, I'm going obviously with A Perfect Circle. I have a Perfect Circle tattoo, so that album is number 1 for me. It's their 13th step album. And then I would go Evanescence, Fallen, Godsmack, Faceless, Korn, Take a Look in the Mirror, and then Meteora by Linkin Park, which is an amazing album. So that would be my 5. What albums or artists would you put on your list for that are turning 20?
I mean, when you look at that list, like you said, it's crazy. It's such an amazing class of bands that have albums that are turning 20 this year. And in 2003, I was 16. So it's a big difference. How old were you, Jimmy?
I was a little bit older than 16. Just a little.
Yeah, there's just a little age difference. But the funny thing I noticed when looking at this list was so many of these bands have made comebacks.
Yeah. Yep.
So a lot of them have been announcing tours and they're reviving some of these albums, doing anniversary shows. For example, we got Yellowcard tickets, Blink-182, Death Cab went on tour earlier this year. And even one of my favorite bands from Chicago, Spitalfield, just announced a tour, which is crazy. I know they've been kind of circling the emo things. I think they went to When We Were Young last year or something like that. But I remember seeing Spitalfield open for Fall Out Boy when I was in high school. So the song I Love the Way She Said LA was one of those songs that made it onto every single mixtape.
Yep.
And it's pretty cool to see these bands coming back because when I was 16, I held them on such a high pedestal.
Right.
And 20 years later, we realize that they're normal people.
Yes, they are.
A lot of them are having normal jobs and things like that, and have evolved. So they have kids now, they've created lives for themselves. And I think this is like such an opportunity for some of these bands to kind of strike while the iron's hot, get into that emo genre, and who knows, they might even start making new music again.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so with the bands making new music, I actually want to go back to what you said about they're just normal people, because when you first, like when you're that young, 16, it's like you see a band on a stage and it's like, am I ever going to be able to meet them? Like that's like
Mhm.
obviously the dream scenario when you're that young. It's like, God, I hope I could meet them one day. And then you follow a band for like 20 years and it's like, this person's just a normal human being making a living, doing something different and supporting their family. So it's like, it's kind of funny when you follow that band for that long and it's just like, he or she is just a normal person.
Yeah.
But I'll go back to one band that you did say was Blink. I'm ecstatic that they're together again, the three of them, and they're making music together again. This past Friday night, I was literally sitting on the couch watching their live feed from Coachella because it was just like I could not believe Mark Hoppus was back after everything that
Mhm.
he dealt with the past couple of years of cancer. And then to see Tom again up there was just like so nostalgic. It was like, this is the Blink that I remember. And that was the first time that they had all three been together since 2014 on a stage, which is
That's crazy.
9 years ago.
Mhm.
So that's just wild to think about. But now they're making music again. But there are other groups that my extreme biasness to something corporate, I would love for them to tour again and do all that stuff, but that's not likely. They might do some reunion shows like they did for Andrew's birthday. They're going to be it when we were young, but Andrew's obviously still a musician, but a lot of the other guys, they have new lives, new jobs, family, and things like that. So it's like you're never going to really see a something corporate tour again, or I highly doubt it. So when those
Yeah.
reunion shows do hit, you got to travel for them if you want to see them. And SoCo is obviously, I'm extremely biased, so we will travel wherever they are. So I love
Oh,
seeing some of
sure.
these bands though come back, like Blink and stuff like that. I think it's amazing.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot of these albums on this list. I'll have to post the list on our website.
Yeah, good
Um,
idea.
like some of them I have tattoos for. Like I have a little question mark on my wrist from The Future Freaks Me Out of I Am the Movie by Motion City Soundtrack.
Yep.
And I love that song because who doesn't relate to not understanding the future and feeling like they have no control over what's going on? And um, so I just love that song, and I always connected to that one. And it was nice to have a song that like literally understood what I was feeling in that moment.
Right.
But I also have My Heart on My Sleeve as an homage to Chicago. So 2 years ago, Off Take This to Your Grave by Fall Out Boy. And if you listen to any of my other podcasts, you know I have a loyalty to Fall Out Boy being from Chicago. And
Absolutely.
they are definitely the first band that I like truly fell in love with and traveled to like 11 states to see. But over the years, I've been lucky enough to meet them several times and like they've seen my tattoos. So it's honestly, it's kind of weird when I go back and listen to that album because at that time I was so young and the way I felt about it was very different.
Right.
And, you know, I remember my grandma saying like, "Are you even gonna like that band when you're old?" And like, of course, I'm still seeing these bands, which is kind of crazy because in my head I thought, "Am I?"
Right.
But jokes on them. Still seeing all these bands that I was in love with when I was 16. So
Yep. Yep.
I do think though, like if an alien spaceship came to Earth and they wanted to hear like a song that would explain human emotion
Mhm.
and how we think, I think I have to pick something from Death Cab for Cutie.
Oh yeah.
Honestly. Or we'll say Death Cab slash the Postal Service because one can argue it's the same artist.
Right.
So I think I'm going to choose a song off of Transatlanticism and one
Mhm.
off of Give Up because I can.
You're the
So,
host. You can do what you want.
yeah, why not? Uh, I think that the beginning chords of title and registration always remind me how much I love Death Cab. So when that starts, it just like triggers an emotion in me, and I absolutely love that song. It's so beautiful. It's simple, but it hits home. So I
Right.
think that has to go on the playlist. And I mean, I don't care if it's their more popular song. I will not ever be sick of Such Great Heights.
Yep.
Um, it's such a beautiful song. And I would say like Brand New Colony is coming a very close second for me because I really love that song.
Mhm.
But if you've never listened to Such Great Heights, you should definitely check out the Iron and Wine cover. It's literally perfection. Now that song will definitely make you emotional.
Right. Absolutely.
I'm adding both of those to our mixtape this time. And I think if there's songs that we're missing from these albums, definitely hit us up. Send us a message. You could do it on Instagram or our website. Or even I think you could reply to the Spotify with the questions too. So send
Yep.
us
You
what
can.
that you would add from these 20-year albums.
Yep.
How about you, Jimmy? What song are you gonna add to this mixtape?
So most people would probably assume A Perfect Circle, just because of my fascination for them. But it's hard to pick like one song. That's why you got two. But but if I was gonna like out of that top five album list, I think this song is it really resonates because of think about it. It was 20 years ago. I was a certain age. You were a certain age. I'm not going to say the number. Um, but I would like to add "Numb" from the Meteora album by Linkin Park.
Yeah.
Most of the song is based on being a child and trying to like live up to your parents' expectations that they have for you. So
Yeah.
it's like think about 20 years ago. You said you were 16. Like the pressures that you felt as a child or a young adult to make your parents happy and like do all these things. And sometimes maybe you didn't want to do all those things, but it was like you had so much pressure in high school to just live up to all these standards. And for me, it's like it's not just the parents, it's also society. So one of the most like profound lyrics of the whole song to me is all I want to do is be more like me and less like you. Because for me personally, I don't relate it exactly to my parents because my parents never like pressured me into
Mhm.
like being something I didn't want to be. It was like, yeah, they would guide me and help me make decisions when I asked, but they almost wanted me to like fail and learn over like putting me in this bubble and like you have to be like this kid. So I base it more on like what does society expect from me, and what pressures am I following into. So I want to be my own person. I want to make my own decisions. I think everybody should do that. It's your own life. You make your own damn decisions. I don't want to be a follower. So it's like that song to me is like there's so much pressure, and even as an adult, you feel these pressures, like especially society today. But it's still like be your own person, make your own decisions. So I would like to add "Numb" from Meteor to our mixtape.
Yeah, I think that's like a really important song too because um looking back on it, like R.I.P. Chester,
Yep.
but that was his like pure emotion when he sings it too.
Right.
That's why it was so relatable to so many people because you're putting yourself in those shoes. So I think that's a like a perfect song to add to the mixtape.
Sweet. So let's add it. And so, like I discussed earlier at the beginning, these are all that are like 20 years old. I don't think we should forget about what is turning 10 because
Mm.
that was almost more shocking to me because I was like, no, that album just came out like a few years ago. And it's like, no, that's been 10 years. So
Oh,
I'm going to ask you what song or albums resonate with you that turned 10.
yeah, I was looking at this 10-year list, and like you said, there's so many good ones on that one too, like from
Yes.
Mayday Parade's Monsters in the Closet to Alkaline Trio's My Shame Is True. But for this one, I think the one that I choose that resonated with me a lot was The Greatest Generation by the Wonder Years.
Mhm.
I remember I first saw them at Riot Fest in Chicago, and I was hooked.
Yep.
I was like, how did I miss this band? They're so freaking good. For some reason, I never really listened to them. I don't know why I thought they were like a hardcore band, and that's not typically what I listen to.
Right.
So when I saw them, I was like, whoa, they're amazing.
Yep.
So I started following them after that, and have seen them a few times since. And
Mhm.
um, that album specifically was crucial to my life because it was like this weird transition of like figuring out what adulthood like really means to me. And like, I'm past 25, but I'm not 30 yet. Like, I don't know what I'm doing with my life and
Right.
how I want to live it. That was before I met you, of course.
Yep.
And there's actually a line in the song Passing Through the Screen Door that says, he says, Jesus Christ, I'm 26, and all the people I've graduated with all have kids, all have wives, all have people that care if they come home at night. And
Yep.
that was like basically where my life was.
Mhm.
Like, I don't have the typical what is supposed to be.
Right.
And I was like, cool. I'm not the only one that doesn't know what the hell they're doing with this adulting thing.
Right.
So that
But to me,
album,
that
yeah.
goes back to like Numb and Meteora. It's like
Mhm.
you just are supposed to have a kid and you're supposed to be married by this age, and it's like that's not how life needs to be. Like, sure, it works for some people, but that's not for everybody.
Yeah, and I wouldn't take back anything because
Yeah.
where I'm at now is great. So
Right.
that is always going to be a reminder for me of like where I was at that time. And there's not a bad song on that whole album. So
Mhm.
I love that one. But what
Yep.
about you, Jimmy? What album turning 10 means something to you?
And this isn't an emotional pick by any means, but it's more of I just love this album so fucking much. Um, and it's one of these albums where I was like, yeah, it came out a few years ago. No, it's 10. It came out in January of 2013. But I'm gonna say Vessel by 21 Pilots.
Hmm.
And again, it's 10. Like that's wild. This was like the band's first album under a major label. They had a couple albums prior to that, but nothing under like a big label. Just to discuss the album cover itself, it's Tyler and Josh's grandfathers, which is hilarious.
Hmm.
Um, but there's 12 songs on it. 6 of them were redone songs from the previous albums that they had released, and then 6 were brand new.
Hmm.
Songs like Car Radio, Holding On to You, Ode to Sleep, and Trees are like to me the top 4. It's just such a high energy, such a good album. And I remember the first time I saw them was early 2014. Did not really know who they were. Like I had heard Car Radio and it was like, okay, this is pretty damn catchy. But I was actually going to see the opener, which was Hunter Hunted, which is
Oh
crazy.
yeah.
So I was at the Wiltern in Los Angeles going for Hunter Hunted, and then it was like 21 Pilots came on. It was like, holy shit, what am I watching? This is 2 people making this much noise and this much energy, and I was just hooked from there. And they weren't very big, obviously, because the album had just came out.
Hmm.
But it was just like, oh my god! And then obviously I was gonna go follow Hunter Hunted, so I saw I think 3 or 4 more shows on that tour, and it was a win-win because now I was a big fan of 21 Pilots.
Yeah.
But just the energy, you've seen their shows, you know what they're about. It's just like their energy is so fucking good. But this Vessel album, to me, it's my favorite out of all of their albums. But it's the one that really put them on the mainstream and made them so freaking popular like they are today.
Yeah, I remember them like blowing up, and you literally like could not turn on the radio without hearing them.
Yeah, yeah, and still like that today.
Now, we're going to close out the show with a segment, and we're calling this one On the List. Basically, it's a band or a song that we're really into at the moment. We're putting them on a list. We're going to keep watching them, see where they're going. Maybe other people will want to check them out too. So, Jimmy, is there anything right now at the moment that you can't stop listening to?
Yes, I actually love this idea, and I'm gonna say it again. Go to our website if you're listening to new music and put it down so we can know what it is. That was one thing Keegan did for us last week. He gave us so many new groups that we had never even heard of. So definitely share that with us. But if I have to pick one, and it's going to be very obvious to you, but not for others, I'm going to have to say Daisy Grenade is what's been on repeat for me nonstop. We were able to see them twice in like the last, I'm going to say 3 to 4 weeks. We saw them in LA and we saw them in Orlando. They were opening up for Meet Me at the Altar, which is another group I could talk about all day. But Daisy Grenade was the opener, and they were so much fun live. It was 2 girls, 3 guys, and it was just like, holy shit, this is more energy than I expected out of these 5 people. But Pete Wentz is actually the executive producer of their EP, which is absolutely crazy. And I would say my favorite songs of theirs so far are You Scared of Me Yet, Cult Classic, and Sick in the City. They do have a crazy, crazy summer coming up. I think it actually starts at the end of this month. They're opening up for water parks. I think they're on like 9 shows for them. And then they're, speaking of Pete Wentz, they're opening up for Fall Out Boy on their tour for 9 shows. And then they're doing a few, I think 3 shows in the Northeast for Sad Summer Fest. So they're going to be very busy. I'm going to say they're popular now. They're going to be even more popular after these shows happen because people are going to know who they are. But they're a lot of fun. But how about you? What have you been listening to nonstop?
Well, I wanted to touch back on Daisy Grenade because obviously I got to see them too. But
Right.
I really love their like feminist rock energy. It was really cool to see them like really like own the stage, and they are like jumping around, they're screaming, like, and they're very unapologetic and
Very.
strong. So I love that about them. And I think the song that you said, Are You Scared of Me Yet? That's been
Yeah.
my favorite one so far
Mhm.
because it almost is like paying note to how like sometimes men say that women are emotional and crazy.
Mhm.
Um, it's like, okay, well, I'm just gonna say I'm crazy. Are you scared of me now?
Right. Yep.
So I love the message of that song, and they were so kind to us. They took pictures and signed stuff for us. So
Yeah.
I really can't wait to see that band again. But
Yeah. They shared a lot of my stuff recently.
yeah, like they're awesome people.
Yeah. Yeah. So shout out to them.
Yeah. And for me, the band that's kind of been stuck in my head, I'm not sure how I ended up on this side of TikTok, but I came across a band called 408. They're out of Orlando, Florida,
Mhm.
and they just released a new song called We Don't Get High Like We Used to. Um, it's really freaking catchy, and
Nice.
it's reminiscent of like a lot of the old school like emo pop punk from the yesteryear. And
Right.
I don't, like I said, I don't know how I found them, but I've been following them since, and I've checked out some of their other music too, and I realized like, okay, these are like right up my alley. Like they have a song called Mark Hoppus,
Beautiful.
so
Beautiful.
obviously they're Blink fans as well. So
Right. Right.
they just played a show in Orlando. They were with the Somerset. And if you like stuff that's similar to the Somerset Blink 182, you definitely want to check them out. But they're kind of like a mix of like synth and pop punk, but also they have 3 different singers. So I thought that was pretty unique
That's
because
cool. Yeah.
in any different song, you'll hear one of the 3 of them, or sometimes all of them. I thought that was pretty unique. You don't usually see that many lead singers in a band,
No.
but somehow they make it work. And
No.
it's still fun and interesting to listen to. So They're at 408 Music on Instagram if you wanted to check them out. But I would definitely give them a listen.
I would say they're from Florida, so you know I'm biased, so I'll definitely listen to them.
For sure.
Thank you guys for listening. Please make sure to like, share, subscribe everywhere that you get your podcast. And don't forget to send us your favorite songs to our website, theultimatemixtape.com. You can see under our contact section where to put that at. And then while you're at it, make sure to check out our blog. We do a lot of reviews about shows we've seen. My pictures are up there, so definitely check that out. And we hope to see you at a show soon.
Make sure you're checking back on the website for updates and featured guests. There's so much more to come. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, guys.
See ya.